readers, how are you today? Today we are going to talk about the author and illustrator named Lane Smith. He was the author and illustrator that I had picked for the 4th grade class this year. So today we're going to take a look at a couple of books that he has illustrated, but he did not write. The first book is a book that all of you have probably seen before and even heard before. It's a really funny book. It's called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. And he illustrated this book, but the author, John Shaseka, actually wrote the book. And it's funny, when the whole pandemic thing started, I was searching around in my house to find picture books that I have at home, because I mostly have chapter books at home, not picture books. And we found this book, and when I looked on the inside cover, this was a book that had been given to my daughter before she was born. So this book was given to me 26 years ago. And I checked on when this book was published, and it was published actually 30 years ago. So even though this book has been around for quite a while, it has lasted the time as being a funny, popular book. I just want to mention John Shaseka. He is a really good author. He is predominantly a author that writes funny stories. Most of his picture books are funny stories, and he is also the author of chapter books, specifically a chapter book series called the Time Warp Trio, which we have at the elementary school, and I think it's a great series for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. The chapters are all the books are all relatively short, around 75, 80 pages long. And they have the same 3 characters in every book. It is 3 boys, and they are always on a quest to find this big black book that is going to get them back home, because they time warp to another place in time. They're really funny stories also. All right, without further ado, let's read this story, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, as told by John Shaseka and illustrated by Lane Smith. Now, many of you know the Three Little Pigs story, and many of you know that the story is told from the pig's point of view. In this particular story, the wolf is going to tell us what happened on that fateful day. The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by a Wolf. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story, because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not our fault we eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So I walked down to the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built the whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, in his right mind, who would build a house of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked, the door fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No one answered. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. The Think of it as a big cheeseburger lying in there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So we went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the bell of the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, go away, Wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now you know food will spoil if you just leave it out there in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and the second little pig's brother. He must have had the brains in the family. He had built the house of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No one answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, Wolf, don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Then the third pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. Now I'm a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down the pig's door. And the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it, the real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. And that is the wolf side of the story, of the true story of the three little pigs, written by John Shasheka. Don't stop yet. Now, I am going to share another story that he has illustrated, and it is a more recent story. This story just came out a few years ago, and again, like the first story, a lot of you have probably seen this book because it is a really good story and it's funny. This one happens to be by the author Jory John. Now, Jory John is predominantly in our picture book section only. And just last year, he came out with a sequel to this story. This story is called Penguin Problems, and his sequel is called Giraffe Problems. We have that one in the library also, but I actually find the first story a little bit funnier than the second story. And sometimes that's true even in movies. The first one always seems to be better than the second one. The one thing that I want to point out about this book before we get reading it is this inside flap. I talk to you a lot, especially at the elementary school, about reading the inside flap to see if the story looks like a story that is going to be a story that you might like to read, because this will give you a little summary of the book. Now, when I read this inside flap, oops, sorry guys, they're playing this morning. When I read this inside flap, I knew this was going to be a good book. So let me just read this to you. What? Oh, you're going to read this book? Somehow I seriously doubt that. I bet you won't even finish reading this flap. Don't worry about it. Why would you want to learn about someone's penguin's problems when you have plenty of problems of your own? Just look around. The world is a mess. Besides, you probably don't even like penguins. Heck, I barely like penguins and I am a penguin. I'm sure you just get a bunch of paper cuts anyway, and you'll probably bend the pages and you'll get your little fingerprints everywhere. When was the last time you washed those grubby little hands of yours? No offense. Listen, I'm going back to bed. Read, don't read, buy, don't buy, whatever. Just try not to wake me up. I'm a light sleeper, and I have a lot on my mind. So, Jewelry John has written Penguin Problems. Lane Smith has illustrated this book, and you're going to notice that the illustrations look quite different in Penguin Problems than they did in the first story of the true story of the Three Little Pigs. Sometimes with illustrators and artists, there will be a pattern of what their artwork looks like. I have found with this particular illustrator, a lot of his artwork varies. So he's not as easily recognizable to Mrs. Davis as, oh, this is something that Lane Smith has illustrated. Penguin Problems. Now the penguin who is going to tell us this story, his name is Mortimer, and he is quite a complainer. It's way too early. My beak is cold. What's with all the squawking, you guys? It snowed some more last night, and I don't even like snow. It's too bright out here. I'm hungry. I'd like a fish. Where are all the fish? Hey, fish, get out here. The ocean smells too salty today. I'm not buoyant enough. I sink like a dumb rock. It's way too dark down here. Brrr! I said brrr! Oh, great, a leopard seal. Oh, great, an orca. Oh, great, a shark. What is it with this place? I don't like being hunted. I'm still hungry, but my flippers ache. I waddle too much. I look silly when I waddle. See? I wish I could fly, but I can't. See? Everybody looks the same as me. I look the same as everybody else. Mom! I literally have no idea who you are. Dad! I literally have no idea what you're talking about. My name is Mortimer. I have so many problems and nobody even cares. Excuse me, sir. Good afternoon. I sense that today has been difficult, but lo, look around you, Penguin. Have you noticed the way the mountains are reflected in the ocean like a painting? Have you gazed upon the blue of that cloudless winter sky, my friend? Have you felt the sun as it gently warms your back? Have you simply stood with your penguin brothers and sisters and elders who adore you? Yes, some things are challenging out here. Yes, we all have difficult moments from time to time. From the walruses to the polar bears, from the whales to the penguins. But hear me now, my friend. I wouldn't trade my life for any other, and I am quite sure you wouldn't either. I am certain that when you think about it, you'll realize that you are exactly where you need to be. Please think about what I've said, Penguin. Goodbye for now. Who the heck was that guy? Why do strangers always talk to me? Walruses don't understand penguin problems. Okay. Maybe that walrus has a point. After all, I do love the mountains and the ocean and the sky. And I have friends and family. This is my only home. This is my only life. Maybe things will work out after all. My beak is cold. It gets dark way too early. Penguin Problems. Some of you might have guessed why I picked this book today. Not only because it is illustrated by Lane Smith, but because I think this is a great message for what we are all going through right now. I have said many times, picture books are for everybody. Adults, children, grandparents, anybody can enjoy a picture book, and I think this is a perfect one. to enjoy right now. I'm not going to read this book, but I just want to show you this cover. It is called There Is a Tribe of Kids, and this is a book that Lane Smith has both written and illustrated. It is also a really good book, and maybe you can check this book out when we come back to school. It is in our library. I hope you all have a great week. I miss you all very much, and I hope that after today, we can put our coats away and feel the warm sunshine. Bye, readers. See you next week.